Here we have our pizza kit that just came in. Here we have our imported San Marzano tomato sauce, fresh mozzarella, a few sauteed mushrooms, some caramelized onions, fresh basil, and parmigiano. This is our homemade pizza napoletana pizza dough made with 5 stagioni imported flour, best stuff you can get. So we'll set this stuff aside for a little bit, maybe about a half hour, 45 minutes before we're ready, so that it's nice and warm, easy to stretch, and will cook perfect in the oven. Let's check it out. Here we have the dough. Don't be afraid if it gets a little stuck, to help it out a little bit. Should have plenty of flour, so it shouldn't be a problem, but here we go, look at that. Nice and fermented, nice and smooth, ready to go. Alright, so now that we have the dough out of the bag, get a little bit of flour, put it on the surface, just like that. Put a good generous amount, don't be shy. Now if it's a little bit out of shape, you can kind of shape it up a little bit with your hands, try to get it into a little circle. And then as you're shaping it up, you're going to start by pushing down in the center. We start in the center because we push the air to the side. And also, we don't want to push down on the border so that we have a nice crust when it's in the oven. It'll expand and it'll give us that nice spring that we like. Just like that, start pushing it in the center. Okay, and if you see that it's sticking a little bit, you can add a little bit more flour to the surface. More flour you have, the easier it is. So now, how I like to do it is I usually put my hands 12 o'clock, just like that, cross them over each other, and I push down just under the crust, where the crust would be, just like that. I move my hands counterclockwise together, and as I move them, I spread my fingers out, just like that. So I'll do it slowly, just like that. And as you spin and your fingers expand, the dough gets bigger. Keeping your fingers within that crust, and see, I can feel the dough getting a little sticky, so not a problem. I'll just add a little bit more flour. We'll dust off all the flour at the end, just like that. Now, if you feel that that's not really working out for you, or your surface isn't working with you, what you can do is you can simply pick it up over your hand, just like that, as you would naturally, and just kind of shape it up. And just like that, it's already at the shape we like. You want to avoid getting it too thin in any particular area. You want it to be nice and even all the way across. When you cook the pizzas, the ingredients tend to sink towards the center, so keep that in mind. You don't want too thin of a center, because then it might rip or break in the oven. As I was saying earlier, if you're stretching the dough and you're a little rough or messing around and it rips just like that, oh no, what do we got to do? Not a problem. What you're going to do is put the dough back on the surface. So here we have a rip, okay? And what you're gonna do is simply just go from in outwards. You're gonna take the bottom and you're gonna stretch it over the top and pat it down, just like that. Sure, it'll be a little weaker, but you won't even notice it. There you go, you're ready to go. Now that we have our dough nice and stretched out, 10, 12 inches give or take, we're gonna move it over to the baking sheet. What we'll do is we'll put a little bit of flour, not too much. The flour will burn in the oven. So you don't want to put too much, just a little bit so it doesn't stick. So get it, flop it over just like that. Shape it up. If it's not a perfect shape, it's okay. One thing to remember, it's best to always top and bake one pizza at a time. We're going to go ahead and start with our imported San Marzano tomato sauce. I usually put about 3 tablespoons. We'll start in the center and spiral out. We do this to make sure that the sauce is nice and even, just like that. And you keep about 1/2 inch to 1 inch, depending on how you like it, from the border, so you keep a nice crust, just like that. See how it's nice and even? That's what you want. And you don't want to put too much, because here you don't want to overshine the dough. The dough has a nice texture and a nice flavor, and you really don't want to overpower any of that. So now we'll do fresh mozzarella. We don't want to put too much of this either. Nice and balanced out. It'll melt, so we'll spread them on the whole pizza. Not too much in the center, because all the ingredients tend to melt in the center. So you don't want it to get too heavy. We'll get some of the sauteed mushrooms. Sprinkle them around. And here we're working with the veggie kit. There's 3 different kits: the margherita, the meat and the veggie. This is the veggie one. So we'll put mushrooms. We have the caramelized onions. Spread them out. And I like to think of each piece of the pizza kind of as an individual part because, you know, everyone's going to get a different slice. So you want to make sure it's well balanced, just like that. You don't want to put too much. You don't want to be any of the flavors to be overbearing or, you know, taking over one of the other flavors. So you want it to be nice and balanced. One of the last steps would be to sprinkle a little bit of Parmigiano on there, fresh grated Parmigiano. I like to do that just to give it a nice little extra kick, some texture, kind of, it'll help blend the flavors together. With a nice drizzle of oil right around the rim of the pizza, just like that, not too much. There we go. All right, now the pizza's ready for the oven. We'll put it in the oven, give it a bake, and when it comes out, we'll put the fresh basil on top as a garnish. All right, pizza's out, looks great, time for the basil. Sprinkle a little bit around. I like to rip it up. Take some of the stems off, put those aside, and there we go, finish off your painting. All right, last step is to cut the pizza and eat it. You can use a cutting board, or in this case I have a plate, so I'll just go ahead and slide the pizza onto my plate. Set the pan aside. Take your pizza cutter. There you go. We'll cut this one to 8. Buon appetito!